Welcome back.
To the Tiny Bookcase. I'm Ben.
And I am Nico. What you're about to hear is an interview.
A damn good one, too. Prepare to learn.
If you enjoy hearing this guest talk, be sure to check out last week's episode where you can hear their story.
Ours, too, if you're so inclined.
So, without further ado,
on with the show. Right now, we'd like to get some questions for you, if that's quite all right.
Yes. Yeah, I love questions. It's all about me now.
Yeah, it sure is.
Open fire!
Open fire. Right, I'm going to go with the first one, which is, what's the first book you actually remember reading?
That's such a good question. It's probably the first book I actively remember reading again and again and again. It's two books, really. It's Shadow the Sheepdog by Enid Blyton, which obviously from the story I read today has stuck with me.
Yeah.
And another Enid Blyton book called she's been in the news recently as Enid Blyton because she wasn't very nice, and she wasn't, because I have a young child and we thought, we'll read him Enid Blyton, and it's quite difficult now. You have to censor as you go along if you're reading the original books.
Oh yeah, it's not just lashings of boiled eggs, is it, when you go back?
No, it's not. There are things in it you cannot say to an 8-year-old, as he was at the time. So he was like, oh, because my wife collects original editions of books. So we don't have like the new ones that they've updated a bit. We've got the original ones, which you kind of think, I wouldn't leave my kid with Enid. And the other one is she wrote a book called The Folk of the Faraway Tree. But my copy, for whatever reason, was really old, and it had the last 5 or 6 pages missing. So I had to make up my own end.
Oh, no way.
Well, I've always wondered if that's how I ended up here.
Yeah,
wow.
But I think that's a very powerful reason as to why you might have found yourself there.
Yeah. But they're the first books I actively remember having in my head, are those sort of, and the poetry of Hilaire Belloc, which is Matilda, who told lies and got burnt to death, and the boy who wouldn't do as he was told and got eaten by a lion. Victorian sort of morality tales in poems. Yeah. They're not acceptable for children, but I loved them. And they're really gruesome.
Do you go for any kind of like didactic angles in your own work?
No, that's not to say that it's not in there. It very much is, and what I believe and what I think, and how I think we should treat people is a large part of my book.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But of everything I write. But if the reader feels like I'm lecturing them, I've failed. If you feel like I'm saying to you, oh, look at this, women aren't a second-class citizen because you're reading about my book, which has a female ship captain, then I've kind of failed. So it's not. It is just the way things are, and I'm never trying to actively teach you anything.
No, but it sounds like you're also not afraid to let yourself and what you believe and what you think go into your books, which is excellent. That's
no, it's definitely there, and I have very certain beliefs about not being awful to people.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and that sort of populates everything I do. There is, of course, reviews of my books calling me a virtue signaler. Which,
oh no!
Well, it just means you've succeeded.
Oh, really? Okay.
If you've got some idiot that thinks that, then yes.
I'm going to, on your behalf, tell all of them to go fuck themselves. Do you find it's possible to write without your personality influencing it, or is there like a step you have to take if you're going to write a particularly egregious bastard? Or
no, because I love people, and I believe there are very few people that are completely worthless. And you're always with my first trilogy, the Wounded Kingdom trilogy. When I was writing the bad people in it, I was consciously thinking I should be able to tell a story from their point of view, where they are the hero, and the things they do make sense.
Yeah.
And I think if I've written someone that's so obviously black and white evil, then I've failed again, because you want subtlety in people. People aren't like that.
Yeah.
You know, people might be absolutely terrible, but they probably love their mom. There's always something there. And I don't want to write simplistic black and white stuff. It's not what interests me about people.
You don't want Skeletor.
No, though there is Angry Skeletor on Twitter who I quite like.
Oh yes, yeah.
Speaks about how she hates He-Man. Just out of curiosity for me, what is your fiction of choice for each of you two?
As in the genre that they would
Yeah.
reach for first. It is a difficult question. I think. I think probably fantasy would. I think if I didn't say fantasy, Nick would call me a liar.
I would.
But I have read a lot of science fiction as well, and which I enjoy because it just sort of tickles a different bit of my brain.
Yeah.
Um,
I would. I'm gonna slightly cheat. I think my genre is comedy, but not sort of guffawing stuff. But if I'm reading for comfort, it will always be Pratchett or Adams, and something that will. It's a very British humour helps me. Light mirth. Let's call it that.
That's a nice way of looking at it. Like how what kind of feelings that it you get from the work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if that was the case, then I would be the reverse of that. Because I go very serious and very grim. Would be my go-to.
Well, we're friends.
I'm like that. I'm a really silly, light-hearted person, but what I go to read is like really grim, and what I write is just like there's this sort of disconnect that I imagine people come to fantasy things and they see me on a panel and I'm all like silly and laughing and doing stuff, and then they read the books and they're just like, oh my god.
I think there's a definite air of truth to that, though. I mean, Ben and I both watch a lot of stand-up comedy, often together, and a lot of stand-up comedians talk about how damage helps them to be funny. And I think that I write a lot of comedic writing normally because it's what I'm interested in, but a lot of that comes from a place of depression, and it helps me to make things that are funny. If you can make things funny, then you can, make things funny, and you can get on with it.
Yeah.
So I do think that there is like a personality seesaw that you can balance through your creativity.
Just because you like Douglas Adams.
Yes.
I personally, this is quite upsetting for a lot of Douglas Adams fans.
Okay.
I think Dirk Gently is better than Hitchhikers by a long way. Did you see I think it was Netflix Dirk Gently?
It was Netflix, yeah.
They didn't, did they?
Yeah, they did. They did 2 seasons.
How have I missed this?
It's a work of genius. It is not the books, but it is a work of genius.
Right, I've got to go.
The second season, particularly, just blew my mind.
I would totally agree. I haven't read not the bit about how it's not like the book because I haven't read the Dirk books. But I watched the show, loved it, did a bit of research on the books, and realised that I was not going to get the same thing from the books as I got from the show.
No, they basically just took his name.
Yeah.
And then did their own thing, but it's brilliant.
Unfortunately, got sort of cut down, didn't it? It got
cancelled at season 2, sadly.
Cancelled at season 2, yeah.
Yeah.
As they're off the Netflix way, yeah.
Or just generally, isn't it? It's horror, isn't it? Like, for example, the HBO series Rome that only got 2 seasons. It was travesty.
Yep. Right, come on, let's have something more cheerful. RJ.
Yes.
What is your secret talent that few people know about?
Well, I think that the thing that people don't expect when they meet me is, I'd love to say it's that I'm a musician, but that's a lie. It was never a talent. It was just a wish.
What did you play?
I was a bass player. I was terrible, but I had really good hair, so I got in a lot of bands.
What was your sound, man? This is my. I don't know. You probably don't know, but I'm a rock vocalist.
Well, I got into music. This is giving away my age. Just as hair metal was dying and grunge was coming up.
A good time.
Yeah, I kind of looked like a member of Poison, but I was listening to kind of tapes coming over from the US of grunge bands and stuff, and I really liked that. So I played in a lot of very grungy bands, and then finally got in one that we did for about 4 years with a really talented guitarist. And I suddenly realised one day, I cannot keep up with you. You are so much better than I am, and I kind of all the joy just dropped out of it for me
Oh,
at that
no.
Oh,
point.
it sucks.
Yeah, but I love it. I love music. I'm obsessed. I'm still listening to like loads of new stuff when I can get at it.
Well, you should, if you're into it, then you should check out Nick's band because
I
Nico,
will.
Nico's in a rock band called Dead Man's Whiskey, and it's very good.
I will.
I'm not allowed to say that.
Yes. In fact,
Are you singy or are you screamy? Or are
Singing.
you singy? Right, okay.
Singy, but with some belt.
Yeah, because I like it all. I've my tastes are very eclectic. And my little boy's learning guitar from an actual rock star at the moment, which just pleases me no end.
Who are they learning
wow.
from?
He's learning from a chap called James Smith. Are they a rock band? I don't know. They're very indie. They're called Yard Act. They're a bit like The Fall. That's probably the nearest thing. Very political, really funny.
Oh, that's good.
And they've been on like Radio 1 and been picked up by The Guardian and stuff like that. So he's not going to have a guitar teacher for much longer, sadly. But they're really good. Yard Act, worth checking out.
Are they based in Leeds?
Yeah, they are the best in Leeds. We went to see them as soon as we were allowed, and they're all fantastic. He's a bit of a stand-up comedian himself. He's quite funny when he's on stage, as James. They're on YouTube. Check out Fixer Upper is where I'd start with them.
Right, no, I've let you go off track here and tell us that you're not a talented musician, which that's going out the window. We're not even having that. But what is your secret talent? I want a secret talent.
Secret talent most people know about me is I used to be a tax inspector.
Ooh.
And no one would expect it of me. Because I don't give off a tax inspector type vibe. So I'm like long hair and black and leather and goth. And I used to like do people's taxes and stuff. And I've no idea how I did it. Because I have to do my own taxes now. And I know I'm hiring an accountant. It's just confusing.
I was about to say, does that mean that you're great at doing your own stuff?
No.
Because I hate doing that with a absolute passion. There's nothing I hate more than a bureaucratic form process.
That was awful. I just give it all to my accountant. Go, you do it. Also, though, if you used to be people don't know this. I think I'm out of the amount of years this actually applies for. But if you used to be a tax inspector and you do something naughty with your taxes, like if you do it, they slap your wrist and say, "Pay us the money you should have paid it." But if you used to be a tax inspector, they go, "Right, you're going to jail."
What?
Because you're meant to know. There's no pity at HMRC if you used to be one of them. If you left, it's like a cult. Once you've gone, they'll always hate you.
There's no pity at HMRC.
Yeah. I can't have a picture of the Queen in the house.
Boy.
Yeah. The Queen hates me now because I left her revenue collection system.
Well, she won't be around for much longer.
You hear a car revving outside. You stick your head out the window. Fuck you! I never liked you anyway.
She's bricked our windows numerous times.
You know, because they've got the royal seal on them.
Oh,
yeah,
God, no.
But yeah, that's my. It's not a talent though, is it?
I think being able to do someone's taxes is a talent, and it's definitely something that people wouldn't expect of a talented fantasy writer such as yourself. So yeah, I like that. Yeah. I like that answer.
Yeah. I don't think anybody expects me to have done something so serious.
So I'm going to follow it up with a question about stories again. So what's your favourite story? So it can be anything. It doesn't have to be a novel or a short story. Just the concept.
Oh, that's. I should have read the questions. I need. There's stories that I'm not a great rereader. I want new things. That's very much how I am. I'm like that with everything. I want new things. I'm not into nostalgia. I'm not into going backwards. But I quite often reread Watership Down because I think it's a work of genius. I love it, and every time I read it, I find it's a different book. And the story is just some rabbits go somewhere, and that's it. But there's so much in it, and it's beautiful. And Richard Adams was actually really rude about it, the author. He said, it's just a kid's book, but I don't think he even knew what he wrote. So yeah, Watership Down. And it's my go back to book. It's always in me. When we do Write Up List, we talk about the text, which is the book that is always in your head when you're writing.
Right.
And for me, it's Watership Down. some part of it is always lodged in my head.
Oh,
So,
that's a fascinating concept. What would be your text, Nico?
Oh,
You should have read the questions, Nico.
oh yeah. Oh yeah, I can see it right here in our list. What is your text?
I always say that. Sorry.
I think it's King Kong.
Oh, that's fascinating. Go on.
So when I'm coming up with stories, and I have a fascination with kaiju movies and giant robots, but like, it's an incredible race parable, King Kong, and it's like especially the Fay Ray 1933 Kong. It's really entrenched in quite subversive thinking for the time. And the idea that you can interweave racial commentary into a movie that is ha 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 monkey fight dinosaur, I think that was a big lesson for me. And I do still like monkey, so
you have to have Kit on, my friend, because he not only does he mistakenly believe that T-Rex is better than Triceratops, which we won't talk about, that's wrong, but he also mistakenly believes that King Kong is better than Godzilla.
oh, the man's an idiot.
Yeah, but he is obsessed with King Kong. He wrote I don't know if it's sold or not, but he wrote a really good story about wasn't about King Kong for copyright reasons, about a giant monkey.
It's called Grand Ape.
Yeah.
Monarch ape.
Yeah. Regal monkey.
There's a fantastic tabletop board game that I really enjoy called Monster Apocalypse, and it's full of these not quite copyrightable names, and the King Kong equivalent is called King Kondo, and it makes me laugh every time.
There's really weird things when you write novels, because the Bone Ships, my ones that are out at the moment, they're based. Have you seen Master and Commander?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love those books. And the Bone Ships concept that I sold to my agent was Master and Commander versus Godzilla. And that's what it is. They're kaiju in it. They're these massive sea monsters. But when it comes to writing a fantasy book, you can't have kaiju. They've got to be dragons.
Yeah.
It's the rule. They're dragons. I'm like, oh, well, they're not really dragons. They're more like
Leviathans.
Yeah, but they're still dragons. So they have to be dragons.
You're not swerving this, by the way, Ben. What's your text?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I might be able to get away with that one, but
You thought you could fucking dodge it, did you? Like the draft.
Hey man, no stolen valor here. It's I think it's actually got, because as I said, like I go serious a lot when I'm reading things, and I think I come off as a bit serious in person, like and you know, so sort of like bound up with all that, like self-doubt and like depreciation and this kind of thing. I think the reason that my answer is The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie, because it's grimdark fantasy fiction wrote with his balls firmly pressed against the wall, and it's funny. It flies by the seat of its pants. It's just aggressive and dark and serious at times, but it's always fun. It never forgets the fun, and the rest of his writing's like that as well. And I think I try and hold that in my head.
He's a lovely chap too.
Is he? Have you met him at panels and such?
Yeah, we're with the same publisher. He's really nice, is Joe. I've met him a few times. In fact, the first time I met him, my little boy was reading these books called Beast Quest, which like for 8,
I'm
9
aware
years.
of them.
Yeah, and basically my son lectured him on how Joe's books were wrong and they should be more like Beast Quest for an hour, and he just took it. He was just like, "All right, really? Yeah." Thanks.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, he's a really nice man.
Well,
this is all.
He's definitely something of a writing hero of mine. With just like, and I try and hold it in my head that every story that you tell should ultimately be fun in one way or another. Being too serious all the time doesn't get me anywhere. So.
Yeah, I think it's a really good tip for if you're writing yourself as well, which is find something you really enjoy writing and then just do it.
Mm.
Don't listen to anyone else if they say, "Oh, what's that? I don't want that." Just do it.
This is all far too positive. I'm not having any more of this.
Okay.
With,
Let's
with
have
that
some
in
misery.
mind, can you think of a book that didn't work for you at all, and why didn't it?
Oh, that is more common than not for me.
Really?
Yeah, I'm more likely to give up on a book than I am to carry on with it.
Is there a common reason?
I think it's voice. A lot of fantasy doesn't work for me because there's it's a skill to write it, and I appreciate it as a skill, but there's a way of writing. I think it's windowless writing. Is one of the phrases used, where it doesn't interfere with the story. It's just like telling you the story. There's no inflection in the writing, and I don't like that. It doesn't interest me. It just doesn't kick me. But the one I'm going to go to because it's safe and I can't upset any of my friends. It is Wolf Hall, which
Okay.
I was desperate to read. I love that period. There's a writer called C.J. Sansom who writes about Matthew Shardlick, who's a lawyer in the court of Henry VIII, and they're fantastic books. And I got Wolf Hall and I was really excited about it, and I just bounced off after about 5 pages really hard.
I also unfortunately bounced off that book after Mark Rylance's wonderful performance in the BBC adapt. I think it was a BBC adapt.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was really good.
I had to go and pick it up, and I did not read it because I didn't like it.
I think present tense writing is a really difficult thing for me to read, and I don't know why. Though I did manage it for Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. I read that, which is excellent. I'm never going to read it again. It's awful, but it is brilliant. But yeah, I gravitate towards books that have a really strong voice, and that's what I like in a book.
I like that. I like the way that you turn that into a positive. That's always the point of it, isn't it?
It defied me.
Yeah. Well, if a book's not working for you, it's because of me. It's not because of the book. Generally, most books that come out are good at what they do. Even people laugh about Dan Brown, but those books are really successful at what they do, which is tell a story that you want to keep reading. I don't enjoy them; they don't work for me, but I understand why they work. And if I could write it, I would.
Yeah,
because then I'd be very rich.
Well, if you can turn crack cocaine into a novel, it's
laborious.
Yeah.
It's flattening it all out into sheets and stapling it together. That's what takes the time.
So speaking of the way that you put together your books, then, what is your writing process when you come to write stuff like the shorter form stuff? So like flash fiction, like the story that you read out for us earlier, or short stories.
I've not written short stories for a long time. I started writing short stories because I stopped doing bands. Thought, right, I'm going to be a writer. Comes back to the not going back to that. I had to teach myself to write. So I thought short stories were easier, and I wrote a lot of short stories. And over about 7 years before I had to go at a novel, and I made a grand total of $5 in that time. That was it, and you can't cash a check for $5 because it's not enough money. So there we go. And then I got really ill, and I came out of it. Yeah, well, it's not. Nothing is as bad as it seems. I was really poorly. I've got Crohn's disease. I'm never getting better, but I was too ill to work, which meant I had loads of time on my hands. So I thought, right, I'm going to write a novel. So I wrote novels. And I probably wouldn't have had the time to do it if I'd had to hold down a job as well. I don't think I'm too slack. So I used that time and I wrote novels and I taught myself to do it. But I've kind of lost the knack for writing, and the short stories are really hard. To be that succinct and tell a really good on-point story is an absolute skill that I was sporadically all right at. And I think with The Shepherd I hit it once. But I'm better at longer stories, I think.
And so the process for writing the longer stories, then, do Do you have a particular approach that you've done for all of your novels, or is it different each time?
It's different-ish each time. The first novel I wrote was that sold, Age of Assassins. I did like a very rough chapter guide. I set out a table, and then I had 30 chapters in it, and I put the beginning, and then I put the end, and then I just slotted in some things that I thought might be quite fun to write, and I wrote an entire book then using those. And then for the ones afterwards, I just went at it without any messing about and made it up as I went along.
And is that because you felt comfortable enough having done it the first time that you sort of had a rough, structured approach in your head and could just do it?
Yeah, I don't think I even have a structure in my head. I think I just have a destination.
Right.
And I write and I see what happens, and it's quite interesting. And if something seems like fun, I'll do that.
Does the destination change when you're writing?
Very rarely.
Right.
It's not so far. With the Assassin books, it was a bit different because they were crime books in a fantasy world. Each one was a murder mystery.
Oh, cool.
So the destination for each, and then there was because it's a trilogy, there was an overarching story that I knew, sort of the emotional story in it that went over all three books. So I knew where that ended. But when I wrote the last book, I didn't actually know what the murder mystery. I didn't know how that was going to end or what it would be when I started. Just thought, I'll write a book.
Oh, that's fun.
And
It's
then
quite
with the
brave to just go at it like that, I think.
it is if you're the sort of person that sits and plans things. It's not if you're me. It's just the way I do it. There's nothing brave about it. It's just me. That's who I am. I'm not.
I think also for me quite comforting because I'm definitely not the kind of person who sits and plans things.
You don't. You have to. I've got friends that do. I've got friends that sit and they plan out everything, and then they sit and they write the novel. And I've got friends that this is horrific to me. They sit and they plan out everything and they write their novel, and then they rewrite that novel, and they usually only use about a third of what they wrote for the first one.
I know that feeling of horror when you hear about people throwing away huge amounts of words. We've had that before on this podcast. We've had some extremely talented people on here, and they've and some of them have said that they've tossed out multiple iterations of a novel and not used any of the words. And the idea for me, as someone that takes the sort of tries to take the sort of cleverest route towards getting it done as quickly as possible, but as well as possible. The idea of throwing away hundreds of thousands of words of your writing is terrifying.
Yeah, you don't have to do that. I don't think. I don't. I finish a book and that's it. I've done a book. Here you are.
I've done a book.
Yeah. I hope you like
only
it.
gone and done a bloody book.
I love that.
I've touched wood. My books have changed very little between me finishing them and them coming back from editor. She more like Jenny's really good, and she more sort of nudges me. And it's really funny going through her edits because she's got like 3 levels of comment, which is. It just occurred to me, which means that this is a passing thought, and then she'll say I thought, and if she's put I thought, it means that she wants me to look at this and see if I can do it better.
Yeah.
And then she'll write we think, and basically that means I'm not getting away with we think. That's you have to change this. And mostly when she wants me to change things, I don't actually change it. I use what I've done and I find a way to make it work. Because I'm stubborn and I'd rather do that. Okay. But my editor's really good and nearly always right as well.
So, other than the we thinks, have you ever come up against any proper adversity on your path to being a writer?
I'm not the sort of person that looks for adversity. I suspect the fact that when I was really ill, I was like in constant pain and only asleep for a couple of hours. I'm 6 foot tall. I weighed 6 stone.
What?
I was really poorly.
Oh no!
It was a long time ago. I suspect most people would see that as adversity, but I don't. I see that as the thing that gave me the room to do what I really wanted to do. And I try and do that with everything. Like every time, I lost my agent, fired me. Not my current agent.
Okay,
Not in a nasty way. Fired sounds really bad, and it wasn't really like that. It's worth telling because it's kind of funny. We nearly sold this science fiction novel, and then publishers came back and said, "Okay, we like RJ. We think he can write. We just don't think this is the one." And they kind of had some ideas of stuff they thought I might be good at. They were interesting. And then I had the idea for Age of Assassins, and I wrote to my agent and said, "This is what I want to do." And he wrote back to me and he said, "I understand you want to do that. Please remember that a first-person fantasy murder mystery will be a really hard sell unless it's really, really good." And what I heard was write a really good book. And what he meant was don't do that, RJ. So we kind of parted ways. But he put me in touch with my current agent. As kind of, I sent him a list of other agents that I could try. Because got on. It's just I want to do what I want, and I don't think that was the sort of client he wanted. And he sort of tagged my current agent, Ed Wilson, on as an afterthought. Said, "Oh, you might get on with him. Try him." And I do. I love him. I love my agent.
Aw.
He makes me laugh. It's like having a friend who's in your corner for everything, but will tell you when you're being an idiot. And it's great. Completely forgotten the point I was making. Adversity.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe Luke. I just try not to think like that.
And it seems like it galvanizes you whenever something even seems like it might be. It galvanizes you to just go for it, like you said. Where you were saying don't do it, you just went. You were like, "Oh, I just need to do it really well."
Yeah, and I think when people say no to me, my immediate, because I seem very nice, but I'm actually a bit of a git. My immediate reaction to anybody saying no is, "Well, I'll show you."
Oh, yeah, I like that.
That's what I want to do, but not in a kind of awful way.
No.
I just want to show you that I can be better. I can do better than that, and that's. And I'm never as good as I think I can be. It's like if I always imagine there's a really good writer over the hill that I can be that I can't see, and I'm chasing him, but he's always ahead of me, and that's kind of quite frustrating. But I keep going at him, and I'm going to catch him one day.
Oh,
So you based on that story earlier, I think you might have got him at least a couple of times. Maybe snagged a leg, got him in a bear trap or something. He's trying to wriggle free, but you've hit him a few times.
Yeah, but I think because you read like something. If I read something like Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy, and you just think that's amazing. And there's a writer called James Lee Burke who is a crime writer. I don't know if you've come across him. Who just writes?
I haven't, no.
Oh, just writes the most beautiful. It's just beautiful, and he writes detective stories about a detective called Dave Robichaud, and they're based in New Orleans in the deep south of America, and they're all about violence, and you know it's coming, and this man's trying to hold it back. And then there's about 20, 30 of them. There's a very, very slight supernatural angle running through them, just that you can imagine it or not, depending. And then the latest one called A Private Cathedral, he's hunted by a 1,000-year-old hitman from hell, and the end of it takes place on the River Styx.
So it really goes for it.
Yeah, and there's just no way that should work. It just shouldn't work, but it does. It absolutely does it, and it never feels like fantasy or urban fantasy. It feels as though it's set in our world. It's just, I hate him. Brilliant.
It sounds a bit like the sort of Southern Gothic vibe, where there's a bit of magical realism in it, but it's also scary and about the deep south of America. Yeah, it sounds very it sounds really up my street.
Very much.
I was just going to say, it's lovely to hear that you surrounded yourself with so many like nice people that listen to you and that you can listen to them as well, like with your agent and with your editor. That's the dream, isn't it? That's the perfect scenario.
It is, and I really like my editor's, my agent's agency. He kind of, I always get the feeling he takes people on that he likes, and that's why I like him, because it's not about, well, he's an agent. It is about money, but it's not just about money, and I really feel like he is there to look out for me. He's not gonna let anyone get one over on me.
That's lovely to hear.
We've gone way off piste, haven't we?
Yeah, that's quite right.
Yeah.
It's good to hear. Good to hear it all, and I'm sure people are interested. But if you had to pick one genre of fiction to keep, and you threw all the other ones out the window, what one would you choose? Which one?
Look, I'm just going to apologise to a lot of people. I'm going to upset now, but I would keep crime, and because I think it's my earliest love, the Agatha Christie's and Sherlock Holmes, and it tends to be what I read now. It's very American. Crime tends to draw me in.
Mm.
I've just finished a reread of the entire Michael Connolly Bosch books after watching the series on them.
Oh, I
Amazon
think
Prime.
I think I heard about that recently. That it came to an end, didn't it, Bosch? I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's a written end. It's not like they cancelled it.
Oh, perfect. Oh, that's nice to hear as well.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and there's a spin-off coming, but
Exciting.
it's astounding television. Just brilliant. It's one of those things where a lot of it is just somebody gives somebody a look, and it sells it to you. But the books are brilliant as well. But yeah, crime tends to be the thing that I read. That's my happy place. People being horribly murdered and then hunted down by a detective. That's what I like. I don't know why I don't read fantasy. I used to read a lot of fantasy, and I used to read a lot of science fiction, and now it's crime. I'm quite cyclical though, so it'll probably change in a few
It could
years.
come back around.
Yeah, it probably will. I think if I wasn't writing fantasy, I would be reading it, but I could, the writer bit of me won't switch off when I'm reading fantasy. So
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not critical. It's not me thinking, "Oh, this isn't right." It's me thinking, "What would I do with this?" And it gets in the way of you falling into a book, which is what I like.
And really, you do want to be preserving the love
Yeah,
of being able to fall into a book. So
yeah,
I think that makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, I like that.
yeah. But of course, I don't write crime, but RJ Dark, who's sat with me, not speaking, does write crime.
Of course.
So, yeah,
The mystical RJ Dark.
yeah, awful person. But
R.J. Bark writes books on pet cats.
dogs. Yeah. I can't believe you've just told everyone about my other pen name. How dare you?
The unveiling.
Of course, there's the physicist R.J. Quark. We can go on.
The ornithologist RJ Lark.
Oh.
And the really unpleasant to talk to one, R.J. Snark.
You realise I'm writing all these down.
Good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm planning my career by these.
Okay, right. Enough of this foolishness.
Yeah.
What is a quote that you live by?
Oh, well. Funny you should have mentioned Douglas Adams. There's a bit in a Dirk Gently book about if you don't know where you're going, find someone that looks like they do know where they're going and follow them. And I love that.
It's very good.
Yeah. And I've done it. If I don't know what I'm doing, I might just find someone that does know what they're doing and see what it is.
That has rescued a drunk me at many a music festival, I have to say.
Yeah, and the whole thing about it says you seldom turn up where you think you're going, but you often turn up where you want to be. And it's that second bit, I think, that really sits with me. That I always try and think, right, well, I'm here. This is where I need to be, and kind of I'm very living the now. So I think that works with me. I don't think I consciously think of it as a quote, but I think that's stuck in my head. So it must have done something.
You're marvelously uplifting, you know.
I just sort of I found myself just sort of smiling through our entire chat, RJ. It's been lovely.
It's like you filmed me with some kind of RJ Spark. It's
oh, well done. It's just to cover up the fact I'm a serial killer.
So, I'm fairly sure everyone listening to this is going to want to find your work and read it, RJ. So, what should they read first?
It depends what you like, I suppose. If you like murder mysteries and kind of Games of Thrones type, that kind of medieval fantasy, then I would start with Age of Assassins, which is about it's about a young assassin and a woman that raises him, and she's an assassin too, and they're captured and told they have to find who's trying to kill the heir to a castle, and the heir's horrible. You kind of want him to die, but their life is on that. So it's a murder mystery basically, but it's a who's going to do it rather than a who did it. And that sort of spans out into 3 books that tell the story of this assassin as he grows up three sort of pivotal moments in the history of this world, and there's quite big time jumps between each book, which is quite fun to do. So I think he's 15 in the first one, he's 20 in the second, and he's 36 in the last one.
I really enjoy time jumps in fictional, like in fantasy worlds, so that you can see the world grow and develop.
Yeah, and as a writer, it stops you getting bored.
Yeah.
Because you have to reinvent stuff, and that's quite fun to do. If you like ships, actually, I shouldn't say that, because apparently I wrote the Bone Ships. It's my pet project because I love Patrick O'Brien, and I wanted to write Patrick O'Brien but fantasy. And it's about Joron, who's an unpleasant xenophobe, an unpleasant drunken xenophobe, as one reviewer described him when you meet him, and it's accurate. He is, and it's about his journey of growing on this big ship that's trying to hunt a dragon. But I love it. I really love it. And the week before it came out, one of my writer friends went, "You're really brave to have written that, because everyone knows that naval fantasy doesn't sell." I thought, "Oh, I didn't know that." Thanks. But it's done really well, and it won the British Fantasy Awards, so that was quite exciting.
You should have just lobbed a copy of Voyage of the Dawn Treader at them.
Yeah.
This is the best one.
It is the best one as well.
Definitely the best one.
It is. It's 100% the best one. Followed closely by Prince Caspian.
Yeah, but I can't tell you how annoyed I was that, much as I love Eddie Izzard, that they gave Reepicheep the voice of Eddie Izzard.
Oh yeah, don't.
Because he's not funny. He's terrifying. He's all. Oh, let's
I feel like I totally. I think you're very much on the same page as Nick and I there. Just back to your work, because we're really keen for people to really get this going. So this is your the trilogy about ships is the Tide Child trilogy, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's about a world where it's kind of an ecological allegory going on. There's no wood, but they had massive kaiju, and they hunted them for their bones to build their ships, but they hunted them to extinction. So it's ever decreasing circles now. They're running out of ships, they're running out of the resources, and then one comes back. And this one ship is tasked with finding it. But will they or won't they? Do they actually want to continue this generational war, or are they going to take an opportunity to stop it? And then it's about growth. And I don't know if you've read it. I'll send one of you a copy.
I would love to. I think it sounds like really up my street. I'm a big fan of Robin Hobb. She's got a wonderful trilogy inside her main trilogy, her main series, called the Lightship Traders, which is all about. It's not particularly similar to what you've described, but like this idea, a lot of it happens on ships, and it's to do with the ecology of what's happening under the waves and stuff.
It's funny you should mention Robin, because she's on the front of the Bone Ships.
Really?
Yeah, I met Robin at a thing in France, and we just really got on. She's really lovely. Just
lovely.
Everything you expect her to be. She's fantastic, and she's a sailor. And I said, "I've written this book. Would you read it, Robin?" And she loved it.
Brilliant! Oh, that's a real ringing endorsement, then, isn't it? This must have been post her writing, and as you say, she herself has her own skills.
Yeah.
So this the Tide Child trilogy is ongoing as well, isn't it? You've got it's September. The final book comes out, isn't it?
The final book, The Bone Ship's Wake.
Yes.
Which what do we mean by wake? That has lots of meanings, which is why I like that title. It says, is it awake? Is everyone dead, or is it behind the ship, or are they coming? Are they waking up? People who've read my fiction before might have an idea where it's going, but but will they be right? And then there's R.J. Dark as well. His first book came out about 4 weeks ago.
Brilliant.
And that's called A Numbers Game. It's an ebook only at the moment, and it's working class detectives, which is a surprisingly rare thing in crime fiction. It's about a guy called Mal, who's a psychic medium, except he's not. He's a fraudster. And his friend Jackie Singh Khattar, who is a Sikh gangster who's a very violent man. And they they get mixed up in the search for a lottery ticket, and they're actually quite good people who are getting themselves in a lot of trouble, and it just gets worse and worse throughout the book. And there's a murder, and they just everything goes wrong, and it's probably the second most fun I've had writing a book.
Podcast is going to bankrupt me, Ben.
Yeah, no.
I've not come out of an episode since sort of mid-season 2 without buying at least one book, and it's getting worse this season. Oh my god!
The RJ Dark one's only $2.99 though.
Oh, there you go then. I'll spot you that one, Nico.
Yeah, but I've got to go and buy a load of books about cool bone boats.
Oh, the bone books sound great.
I've only got copies of the second one, but I'll send them to both of you.
Oh, lovely. That's very kind
so
of you.
nice.
Yeah, email me your addresses now. You think that, but when your book comes out, you get 30 copies. And we've got a lot of bookshelves, but they're full of they're full of my books, and my wife is going, you have a lot of books, and they're all the same, and they've all got your name on. Can we please make some room?
That must be particularly annoying for her when she collects the first editions of things.
Yeah. So I have a first edition Agatha Christie that's got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been absolutely stunning to talk to you, RJ. I've loved every minute of it. Really made me very happy.
I've loved it. Come and do Write Up List with us at some point.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It'd be lovely to have and talk, because I don't think we've had podcasters on, so that'd be really. We might have had one, but it'd be not a duo though. So that'd be lovely if you want to do it.
We're basically one person.
Two-headed
Two-headed ogre. One of us tells the truth, and one of us always lies.
Oh, don't do that. No, that gives me such a headache. People explain it to me, and I just do not get it. It doesn't matter.
If I gave one of you a banana and asked you to slice it, would you do it horizontally or vertically?
I've got a friend that's a mathematician. He's a proper scary mathematician who does weird stuff that affects our lives through maths. And he was explaining to me about negative numbers, and I understood it for about 20 seconds when he was there telling me about it. And then he went away, and I just had a terrible headache for about a week.
What you've just described to me is a wizard.
Yeah, he's a wizard. He is. It's mad. He can make numbers appear in your head. And the weird thing is, my little boy, he got it. He was just like, "Yeah, that makes sense." I was like, "You're 8. Shut up. Not right."
Oh.
Yeah. I've had a fantastic time. I would do it again in the shop, and we've gone on for 2 hours.
If anyone wants to tweet at you or email you or just get in touch and tell you that they enjoyed the books that we're gonna, I imagine the ones that we know who are listening are gonna want, because you've hit the wheelhouse of our group here. And where can people get you? Where can they reach out?
You can find my website is rjbarker.com. That was made by the lovely people at Create, who I don't usually advertise people, but they made my website for free, and they're lovely. And I was very bad doing that, but they're lovely. They look after me, and I'm on Twitter all the time, but my Twitter handle's really stupid. So if you search RJ Barker, it will bring me up.
Tell us the handle.
Yeah, it's DEDBUTDRMNG, which is a shortening of the H.P. Lovecraft Dead But Dreaming, but it's not actually referencing H.P. Lovecraft. It's referencing the goth band Fields of the Nephilim, who I love.
Oh, this has been a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Brilliant.
I've had an absolute blast. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, RJ, and we'll definitely be talking to you again.
Yeah, I've had a great time. I'll get you. I'll get Kit. We'll contact you about Write Up List. It'd be a joy to do it. We just sort of ramble on.
That's what we like to do.
Yeah,
ramble on.
and email me your addresses, and I'll get your books to you.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of The Tiny Bookcase.
Remember to subscribe, otherwise you're going to miss out on the future fun.
Also, tell a friend. If you like this episode, link them to it.
We'd be tremendously grateful. You can follow us on Twitter at BookcaseTiny, Facebook at The Tiny Bookcase, and Instagram at BookcaseTiny for updates. Speaking of supporting the podcast, well, magic can only take one so far. The Tiny Bookcase is supported by the generosity of its patrons. Those kind souls have really kept my belly full the last year. Let's cast a spell for them, shall we? For magnificent beardery, let's cast the Chinicus folliculale spell on Gary Laird. For rich ginger tones on the scalp, let us cast the Orangi Hedondo spell for Scott Byrne. And for general fabulousness, why not the Ooh La La How's Your Mother spell on Matthew McLaren?
How do you come up with that shit, man?